It's not to give any legal advice. Any legal advice. I'm not giving any legal advice at all. So I just want to make that clear for, I don't know, just to say it, I guess. So one article that I was looking at when I was working on a case is I wanted to see, just what happens with a lot of these informants, and how the FBI deals with them. And the more I dug into different kinds of research, I was coming across article after article with similar headlines. One of the headlines, this was from an article on back in 2016, and the headline of the article is FBI authorized informants to break the law 22,800 times in 4 years. It's actually insane. I'm going to read a little bit of it. It's quite boring, if you just read in the article. So I'm just going to read a little just to give you a snapshot. But it's basically over a 4-year period, the FBI authorized informants to break the law more than 22,800 times according to newly reviewed documents. Official records obtained by the Daily Dot under the Freedom of Information Act show that the Federal Bureau of Investigation gave informants permission at least 5,649 times in 2013 to engage in activity that would otherwise be considered a crime. In 2014, authorization was given 5,577 times. USA Today also, it appears they also gave different statistics for different years as well. In 2011, they were authorized to break the law 5,658 times. In 2012, 5,939 times, which it totaled up from the totals were from 2011 and 2014 were 22,823 crimes. Astounding. Absolutely astounding. So the moral of that for anybody who has brains is, and is looking at this just from an analytical standpoint, if you don't even have an opinion on what somebody, if somebody is an informant, they aren't an informant, but just to look at it and to say commonsensically that if you're allowed to break the law while you're being an informant, how does that equate? How does that equate to logic? If you're going to be an informant and you're going to work for an agency that is part of the government, it's a law enforcement agency, how are you allowed to break the law while you're doing that? Shouldn't that automatically result in you can no longer work with that department and you should also get prosecuted? Shouldn't they rip up your agreement, your cooperating agreement, and then bring charges against you? You see, what that just tells me is in their mind, they're prioritizing. So they're saying if they're targeting somebody, they're going to let all these things go so they could just get the target. So they're going to let these informants do all these things, break all these laws, so they could just get their target. So in their mind, they're prioritizing individuals. And that kind of substantiates the whole theory, how when they target somebody, they'll go by all means necessary to get that person. They'll overlook things, they'll allow informants to get away with things because the greater good in their mind is to get the person they're targeting. And again, if you're a juror and you know this is the background, how don't you weigh that a little bit? How doesn't that factor into your decision of credibility? And that's what it boils down to. It's about credibility and agenda. And somebody's, doing all these things, they're breaking the law, they're being treated as if they're untouchable because they are untouchable. They're allowed to do all these things. They're allowed to commit all these crimes and not have to worry about any consequences because they're feeding information to law enforcement. And it appears that USA Today back then, this was like from 2016, as I said earlier, they're the ones who actually who came up with this study. And there's a lot. If you go on like Google and if you just some like key terms you could use, just do FBI and you could do informants and crimes. You could just use those different keywords and you'll see a lot of these studies. So I'm not going to go through every one. I just found out those statistics pretty fascinating. I found the idea that they're just allowed to do these things. Really disturbing. And another report, which was from a site called Gizmodo.com, where it said the FBI severely underreported how many times it authorized informants to break the law. So that stuck out to me because that's being, deceitful. I mean, you're basically, from the way the article reads, this is an article dated 9/19/2017, and the title is FBI severely underreported how many times it authorized informants to break the law. This year, the FBI appears to have, for the first time, overlooked a reporting obligation established by the U.S. Attorney General's office, and in doing so, the Bureau appears to have greatly lowballed the total number of times it authorized confidential informants to engage in criminal activity last year. And then it goes on and it gives a bunch of statistics on the report that was released and the findings under the Freedom of Information Act that this Gizmodo.com requested. Issued all the different statistics, and would tip them off, I guess, that something wasn't right. They have a side-by-side chart here, and on the side-by-side chart they're showing the numbers. And 2011, this is how it's saying that the FBI allowed. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where the FBI allowed informants to break the law. So it gives you details of per year, and I mentioned some of these numbers earlier. In 2011, it was 5,658. 2012, 5,939. 2013, 5,649. 2014, 5,577 times. 2015, 5,261 times. Then in 2016, it drops to 381. And the article says if you selected something's not right here, so basically the person reading it saying, well, wait a minute, for 5 years it was over 5,000, all of a sudden it drops to 300. It says if you believe something's not right here, you're correct. It turns out the FBI failed to report an entire tier's worth of criminal activity, therefore significantly reducing the overall number of authorized crimes it reported. That's about a 93% drop.